Hey everybody, we'll start in just a minute. As always, no one really wants to watch the gaming streams, but that's all right. I was going to play this anyways, and a couple people asked me to do another Magic the Gathering stream, and I'd been kind of holding off till I got a couple more decks to deal with. Um, I have three main decks at the moment, which we'll go into in a minute. Sorry I haven't put up any content this week. I've just been kind of I've been feeling like shit for the last 2 weeks, and I've like barely been able to function. And I just haven't had the energy or like focus to actually make any videos. I'm gonna try to put out one tomorrow though. We're gonna try to get a review of Over the Moon for You up, which I've been wanting to do a review of for a while, and I just haven't really gotten around to it. So I needed that as a palate cleanser after watching the filth that was what was it called again? Um, what was that thing? That garbage. Rent a Girlfriend. I was like, I need a palate cleanser, so I went back and I rewatched Over the Moon for You. I think a lot of my base would actually like it, even if they're not anime fans, because it's pretty much the most, yeah. Uh, I've been feeling like shit too, but it's COVID. Yeah, I've been testing myself, but it doesn't really matter because the tests don't really work. Now, I have, because I have to get them for work, I have my vaccines up to date, and I had COVID a couple months back, so I don't know if I can get it. It's really hard to tell because there's like 50 different variants, and you're never really sure which one you have, and who knows how much the vaccine actually does, but I don't know. I'm sure a lot of people will get angry at me for that, but as I said from the beginning, I'd rather take my chances with the vaccine and be able to work than not work to prove some moral point. Take a sip of my coffee. But yeah, I just had like a really bad cough. I threw up one night. That might have been because I was like depressed, so I ate a bunch of ice cream, and it was like cranberry white chocolate, so it was probably just really rich, and that's probably what upset my stomach. But yeah, so who knows? Who knows? Take another sip of my coffee. Yeah. In the next couple weeks, I'm turning 32, so that hasn't been the best. Um, I've been playing a lot of Why Are You Depressed? Um, I'm always kind of depressed on my birthday. Keep in mind, I have bipolar. So I just go through mood cycles. It's sometimes hard for other people to really tell because I've gotten pretty good at coping with it over time. But sometimes I just go through a like period where I'm like suicidally depressed and I can't really do much. I can still go to work, but I just have no energy outside of work. And then sometimes I don't have type 1, so sometimes I'll have hypomania where I'll have like be somewhat megalomaniacal, and I'll often go and spend money. Now it's not normally a ton of money. It's I'm pretty conservative with my money, so it's probably more like what a normal person would spend. But yeah, the worst thing though is mixed states where you're manic and depressed at the same time, which is kind of like strapping a rocket engine to a like rickety old 90s piece of shit. What kind of coffee am I drinking? Maxwell House. Not the fanciest thing, but I have a drip coffee maker and it works pretty well, so definitely cheaper than it's not as bad as at my previous office. At my previous office, everybody just Pot coffee every day. So that's being said, let's get into it for today. So I have three main decks at the moment I've been playing with. I have Secretive Immortality, what I call Vampire Eternal, and then Sliver Legion. Unfortunately, there's not that many slivers. And even though there's some really good slivers, like there's one that gives ward to all slivers, there really isn't a there isn't enough of them to put it into the deck. So I kind of kept it to three colors. It'd be nice if they put some more out, but slivers are kind of weird. I kind of feel two things happen with slivers. Either you get your ass kicked because you're too slow or they just nuke the board, or you just slay everything in your path and it's a complete like curb stomp. So my best deck I think at the moment is Secretive Immortality, which is a mono white life gain deck. And I had like an absurd game the other day where I was at 400 life and I had like 100 creature, just because everything was so synergistic. So we're gonna play a game. We're gonna play a bunch of games. I might get my ass kicked. I hope this doesn't sound like a cope. I'm actually decent at this game, but I'm actually decently high ranked. So I'll be facing off against pretty good players. I'm in platinum at the moment. In limited, I'm bronze because I'm terrible at standard. Limited. I normally just don't win a single game if I'm playing limited. Like, I'll just lose all of it. The only reason I really play limited, because I don't like the format, is because it's a good way to get a lot of cards. Especially if you're trying to build a specific deck. You can just pick those. So that being said, let's start the first game. I have not played Hearthstone, no. Here we go. Finish the coffee. Now I have my blueberry pomegranate sparkling water from President's Choice. Okay, that's a pretty good starting hand, so we're going to keep 7. And we'll go through this. I don't really like to use deck lists. I'll use... I'll look at them for kind of like what the archetype is and what the... some of the recommended cards are. But I kind of feel like part of... yeah, if you want to get into Magic, this isn't a bad game. This is somewhere between free-to-play and not free-to-play. There is a series of codes that... there's a series of codes you can get that give you like 3 or 4 booster packs from each set. And there's like, I think 20 sets out, so you can get quite a few. They also throw a bunch of... I'm trying to think, losing my train of thought there for a minute. Okay, and I am going to put out Voice of the Blessed. And I am also going to put out Cleric Class. So, Voice of the Blessed is kind of crazy good. So, it's a 2/2 for 2. Whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on Voice of the Blessed. As long as it has 4 or more counters on it, it has Flying and Vigilance, which is really good. As long as it has 10 or more counters on it, it has Indestructible. Now, if you're playing off against, like, red or sometimes black, and they don't really have anything that, or green, that exiles a creature, it can be extremely difficult for them to kind of get through it. So, Shadow Spear gives lifelink and trample. I find it's really good in this deck, because what will often happen is Voice of the Blessed, or I have this enchant creature, will often get really, really high, like to plus like 30/30. But without trample, they just keep chump blocking it with tokens or something. Okay, so the first opponent just conceded. Okay, that was easy. All right. I didn't even really get a chance to explain the deck. So the other thing that's kind of cool about MTG Arena is over time you will get wild cards. From packs, you'll also get them from... I would actually say getting a starter, paying a little bit in this game and getting the... If you were going to spend money on this game, I think there's a starter pack that isn't bad. The other thing that's kind of worthwhile is the Mastery. So the Mastery gives you various rewards as you level up. So even under free-to-play, you get a fair amount. But under the paid one, they give you a lot more stuff. And it winds up being pretty cost-efficient relative to just buying other things. So if you play the game a decent amount, you'll get through a lot of these things. But yeah, so you get wild cards, so they can be traded in for any card. So I have a bunch, so I can trade that in for any 40 uncommons, any 13 rares, and any 11 mythic rares. So you don't have to rely on just buying packs until you get the cards you want for your deck, which is really nice. I mean, obviously, if you want... what it leads to is it leads to people making decks that are like 50% mythic rare, but at the same time, it means that most people are able to build a deck that they want. Okay, so we're going to play another round. But yeah, so I kind of think with your deck, you should have a little, maybe it's a cringe thing to say, self-expression. But I think part of the game is to kind of put your own spin on things. So I think deck lists are okay. Let's see, I'm going to mulligan. Okay, that's actually a pretty good starting hand. And I will put a plains on the bottom. I have a lot of land in this deck. So this is actually a really good card. Authority of the Consuls. Creatures your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. So this actually is really good against token decks, because it'll just trigger a lot. Now this is a mirror matchup, which means that the other person I'm against has the exact same deck as me. And that is a really unpleasant experience to have to deal with. Okay. Oh, they have the Book of Exalted Deeds. Ooh, that's really good. Okay, so I'm going to play Light of Promise, which is a really good card. So that is, whenever you gain life, put that many +1/+1 counters on target creature. And this deck gains life really fast. So that should be good. This is an example of how they paused the game. So that's from the King Arthur expansion. So basically Guinevere's black now. They made Urza's wife black for some reason. Because, I don't know, she was not in the original version of the thing, but they just decided they had to put it in. So Urza's wife is black now. Okay, I'm going to play this. This is actually a really good card. So what the Protector Shield does is prevents 1 damage to anything that gets damaged, and everything has Ward 1. So if they want to target anything I control, they have to... wow, that is... they have to pay an extra mana in order to do that. So they're going to attack me. Because of this, it dramatically reduces it. Okay. And we are going to play... don't know if I really want to play a Johnny Strength of Pride yet, because they're just going to kill it. What does that do? I'll play God of Worthy. I don't think... yeah, I can attack. We'll see if he just chump blocks. So non-creature spells your opponents cast with mana value 4 or greater cost 2 more. Okay. So I'm probably going to lose this battle unless I get lucky and draw Doomscar, which will allow me to nuke the battlefield. I'm not going to give up quite yet, though. It would be nice if I could get a some more life gain, but that's probably not going to happen. I'll just take it. Okay, come on. Yeah, okay. I'm just gonna concede. There's no way I can beat that army. I'm not gonna be able to deal with it. Like, I don't think there were any black people on the continent. I forget what the continent Urza was on. There were like Mongols, because there was the Philigi or Philojo. I don't remember what they're called, who were like a nomadic Khanite people. But I don't think there was any like Africans. I mean, there was like goblins and dwarves and dryads and elves, but I guess none of that counts as diversity. So, that's a decent starting hand. I think I'll keep it. So this was kind of something interesting they introduced in one of the D&D based expansions is classes, which basically they have a variety of different effects, and you have to level them up. So for cleric class, it's you gain extra life. Then it goes when you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on something. Then it goes to revive target creature. Okay, I've got a pretty good hand so far. Helia, the Sun Crowned, is really good because he only costs 3. Whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. And he... Let's see here. I think I'll play him. And 2 is use... 2 is give something lifelink. So basically, if you're playing a mono-white deck, as long as you have Devotion to White, so that's the total number of white mana symbols on your side of the board. Let's see, I'm going to play that. And I will attack. It's pretty easy to get 5 white mana symbols. Because, I mean, if you look at it, you have... Okay, what is this? I will play a Righteous Factory, and I'll play another Cleric class. And we will attack. Yeah, so he miscast that because he didn't read the text. Oh, no, he didn't. He just... Okay, he exiled my orb thing that gives all my creatures protection. So... And he's going to hit me with Doomscar. Okay, that kind of sucks. Okay, play that. It's not quite enough. Okay, I'll just end my turn. So Dawn of Hope is really good. Whenever you gain life, you may pay 2 to draw a card, which is very easy to exploit. Okay, so we're going to play Righteous Valkyrie. And I'm going to attack with Helia the Sun Crowned. Okay, so he is almost dead. Just hitting me with stuff. It doesn't particularly matter, though, just because I'm pretty high. A nice thing about life gain decks is you don't have to block, which might sound kind of crazy, but the it is nice to not have to block, because that means you can focus on... okay, let's see here. think it's 3 I have. Because a lot of the times people will have combat tricks, so something like whenever exile target blocking creature, or your creature gains death touch, or something like that. So not having to block just kind of removes that. It also kind of prevents your creatures from getting hurt. Because if you're going to have like a test of endurance, you're probably going to win with a life gain deck. So. And he's going to shoot that, which is great. And I'm top decking now, so let's play a Johnny Strength of Pride. And I'm going to use him to gain a life, and then I'm going to activate Dawn of Hope to draw an extra card. It's weird to have a lot of card draw in a mono white deck, but I guess it is what it is. Another Dawn of Hope. That's not helpful at all. What is his? Fuck, that thing accelerates quick. And I'm just going to concede because there's no real way I can get out of that situation. He has just too big a lead. Removal decks are really annoying. They're not like overpowered or anything. They're just annoying to deal with when everything you're up against just shoots you. There was one deck I played against that abused Affinity for artifacts, and it was like a turn 2 infinite combo, and he played basically his entire deck on turn 2. And just killed me, which was pretty annoying. Let's see here. It's not a bad hand. I should put a second Doomscar in this deck. Okay, that's a pretty good opening hand. I'll put Wandering Emperor on the bottom. Gonna play Shadow Spear. So something that's really important in Magic, and it's kind of hard to describe, is something called tempo. And I think what that kind of means is that you have something to play every game, every turn. And the stuff you play every turn benefits the stuff you already had. So you're just quickly winding things up. And you're kind of constantly just improving. So like with my vampire deck, what that will mean, the other cool thing about MTG Arena is it's also on mobile, and the two accounts will sync. So you can also play the game on mobile, and you get all the exact same stuff, which I think is pretty cool. Oh, let's see here. Okay. Oh, oops, I forgot to... Wait, what? Okay, I completely misplayed that. I guess I just wasn't paying attention. Uh... Although maybe that was a good thing, because it means that I didn't have a second creature for him to shoot. That seems borderline overpowered. Draw a card for 2 mana. That's really, really good. Especially when you can use it up to 4 times. I guess you can only use it once per turn, but still. And I am mana screwed, which is great. I will attach this. And I'll play Cleric class, and there's not much else I can really do other than just attack. And that will give me another counter on Voice of the Blessed. So yeah, the mobile one syncs, so you can do your daily missions. You have access to all the same decks. I kind of like to do deck building on my computer, just because it's a lot easier to do search and to do other stuff like that than it is to do on mobile. So I am going to play Angel of Unity. Oh, wait, I shouldn't... Oh, well, whatever. It happens. Sometimes you play things in the wrong order. So Angel of Unity is actually really good for 2 mana. So for 2 mana, it's a 1/3 with flying and lifelink, which is already really good. And it has an ability where it's kind of weird. It gives creature cards in your hand if it shares if it's a certain type. I think if it's warrior, what is it? Warrior, cleric, rogue, wizard. And this deck is mostly clerics, so that's pretty good. So like my Righteous Valkyrie gets a boost out of that. I'll probably play Righteous Valkyrie next turn. Thran Temple Gateway. Oh, and he plays Nicol Bolas. That's cool. Like, one of my issues I'm going to say, and maybe this is just me coping, is I feel like some of the cards they printed specifically for this game are kind of overpowered. Like, this is play any card in your hand for 4, which just seems kind of ridiculous. Because that can be anything. That can be like... I don't know. You could play Darksteel Colossus. Or I guess Darksteel Colossus isn't in this game. But I hate playing against control decks for this reason. It's just a really annoying game. Because you just can't do anything. And you're just kind of left sitting there. Waiting for something to happen. I don't know. I still think that's overpowered. Maybe that's just me. There's this one card that I think is ridiculous that allows you to summon the entire Power 9. You play it, it's like 2 mana or something, and they put the entire Power 9 in your deck, which includes such fair and balanced cards as Black Lotus and Chrome Mox, and what else is there? No, sorry, the Moxes, Time Walk, which is completely balanced, Ancestral Recall, which is also completely balanced, and I'm going to try to kill Nicol Bolas. Like, I kind of hate, like I said, I hate these decks, because it's like, I just want to play the fucking game, and it prevents you from playing the game. Just because you're just kind of sitting here, like, with your thumb up your ass, and they're just constantly playing removal, and just nothing really happens. I don't think, like, control is overpowered or anything. It's just really obnoxious. And I just don't think it's very fun to play against. Blue control is the worst. Oh, it seems like Magic communities have sex as the new cards are designed for arena rather than in-store play. Yeah, I just think a lot of them are... Like, I just don't find this fun, to be honest. Just kind of sitting here, not being able to play the game. And just nothing happening. I mean, that's cool. And it's just going to be an endless stream of exile, do something. And I'm not going to be able to do anything because his dragon has something like exile up to 10. I'm just going to concede because I just don't want to keep playing this indefinitely. I don't get why that's not a artifact. I guess to make it so that you can't even shoot it. So the other thing that a lot of people are pissed off about and that I think is complete shit. So they've introduced a set of things called Worlds Beyond, which is where they make Magic cards based on other properties. So they started out with Baldur's Gate and Forgotten Realms, and I don't think anyone cared about that because those are both Wizards of the Coast properties, and MTG is pretty similar to D&D. So it was just kind of like a cute crossover. They haven't put it out yet, but they're doing a crossover with they're doing a crossover with I'm trying to remember what it was. Uh with Lord of the Rings. Now, I think that that is questionable cuz I don't know. It does kind of like D&D is based on Lord of the Rings. D&D is a Wizard's property. It doesn't seem like the worst thing in the world. Rain, get the fuck out of the way. She just keeps jumping up in front of my screen and being a detractor. Don't look at me with those eyes. I know you're trying to make me lose. You want me to play with you instead of with Magic. Here, take some treats. And go deal with that. And I'm mana screwed, so there's nothing I can do. It's not the worst as far as being, like, as far as mana, but if my deck is 50% mana, it seems weird to me that in 8 cards, I'd only draw 2 mana. So I'm going to play Angel of Unity. Actually, I shouldn't have played that. I should have played Voice of the Blessed, but whatever. Yeah, so they did Lord of the Rings, which is questionable. So Lord of the Rings that, then they decided that they were going to do Warhammer 40k, which is, once again, so Warhammer 40k is, like, really pushing it. Now, you could argue a lot of things in Magic the Gathering is very similar to Warhammer 40k. Phyrexia is very similar to Chaos. So I don't really mind that. So Phyrexia is similar to Chaos, so that's okay. You also will have... What else is there? The Tyranids are kind of similar to Slivers, so that sort of makes sense. I don't know, the Tau don't really resemble anything in Magic the Gathering. But anyways, the issue is, like, Warhammer 40k, it's like, I guess it's alright, maybe, but it's really kind of pushing it. The one, though, the cherry on the shit sundae, the one that just, I think, makes the whole thing garbage, is is Doctor Who. Why the fuck is there a Doctor Who expansion? Why was there a Godzilla expansion? Yeah, that's... Oh, yeah, I hate this card. When Oracle of the Alpha comes into the battlefield, conjure the Power 9, then shuffle. Now, the Power 9 are the 9 most powerful cards in Magic, which is like Black Lotus, the 5 Moxes, Time Walk, Ancestral Recall. I just don't want to have to deal with this control Power 9. So, like, Time Walk is take an extra turn for 2. Ancestral Recall is draw 3 cards. The Moxes and Black Lotus are free mana. Now, the argument I've seen from is, oh, well, later in the game, it's not helpful for you to draw free mana. I guess. I just don't think something like that should even be in the game. It just seems kind of retarded. I'm gonna be honest, dude, I really hate Doctor Who. I tried watching it, like, in university, and it made me, like, physically nauseous. It just kind of summarizes everything I hate about British television, in terms of it just being extremely smug, superior, nihilistic. I don't know, I just really hate Doctor Who. But I hate the vast majority of British television, so I don't think that's really that strange, to be honest. I'm going to play. I guess I'll play Righteous Valkyrie. And I will ping him for one. Okay, and that gives me a 1/1 creature that whenever I gain life, it gets more powerful. Rain, get off the table. I'm trying to play Magic here. Cultivate's one of my favorite cards. Although Reap and Sow I actually like better because it lets you search for any land. Okay. To play Daxos Blessed by the Sun. I'm going to play Voice of the Blessed. And this is when we start to get into the synergy of the whole thing. So this is whenever an angel cleric enters the battlefield, you gain extra life. This, whenever a creature enters the battlefield, you gain extra life. And it just triggers all these other things. Righteous Valkyrie has an ability where if you have 7 or more life above your beginning, total, and then everything gets +2/+2. And this has lifelink, so that's going to trigger Voice of the Blessed and Johnny's Pride Mate. So basically at this point he has to win next turn or he's just dead. And Rain's back up on the table again. Yep, and he plays a Nuke the Board card, which is... It's fair, but it's annoying. I'm going to play Protector's Shield. I think it's more important to get that out to prevent something like that happening again. Bug is smug and nihilistic if you think about it. I would agree. I don't think it was that smug and nihilistic prior to the Daniel Craig movies. But I really dislike the Daniel Craig movies, so I just think they're not good in general. I don't really like anything about them, to be honest. I find them boring, uninteresting. The humor, the charm, the like Bond girls, the kind of crazy villain plots, kind of everything that I liked about James Bond growing up, they've more or less just kind of taken out of them. And now they're like these bland Jason Bourne-esque action movies. They're just kind of garbage. And now I'm mana flooded. Oh, well, it happens. I did draw a lot of decent cards. He just had a Nuke the Board. I never know, like, if you're just supposed to, fuck. Okay, I'm dead. He has Indestructible, right? Oh no, I have one card in my deck that could deal with Indestructible stuff. I hate Eldrazi. I mean, I don't think they're unfair, but they're just excessive. Target player exiles the top 20 cards of his library. That's... I mean, it's not unfair, it's just really annoying. And unless you have, like, an exile card in your hand, I guess if I had pacifism or something like that, Then again, I would have won this game like a long time ago if I hadn't been able to draw. Um, if he hadn't have played Planner Cleansing. Although, once again, I'm playing pretty high up there. So, okay. Now, the question is, can I just outright kill him before the game ends? Because I do have a lot of life left. And I have one more turn after this. So I might as well just wait and see what happens. I have one card in my deck that can kill Omug. In my vampire deck, I specifically put in a bunch of exiles. Because there's so many, like, bullshit cards in this game, particularly in online, that just come back from the graveyard or do stuff when they go into the graveyard. So, let's see here. Yep, I can't do anything. And I know I'm getting my ass kicked, but part of it is just I'm in platinum. So these, I think, are the, like, good players. Not the, like, excellent players, but the good ones. Also, this might sound like a cope, and it kind of is, but... sometimes you just get really bad matchups. Like, for some slower decks, if you're up against red deck wins, you just get your ass kicked. Life gain decks can just, I think, sometimes beat red deck wins, because red deck wins will just run out of spells. So, I mean, it does happen. That's a pretty good opening hand. Actually, no, I'm going to have to mulligan. I didn't draw anything low. Fuck, I'm going to have to mulligan down to 5. Shit, okay. Okay, Vampire of the Dire Moon. Vampire of the Dire Moon, I think, is really good. 1/1 with Death Touch and Lifelink for 1. Even, like, later in the game, you can use it to chump block big creatures. Oh, cool, there we go. We're gonna fight up against another control deck. So, play that. I guess he's getting rid of his cards pretty early. Okay, and I'm going to play Marauding Blight Priest. So Marauding Blight Priest is one of the cards that kind of makes this deck work. So whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. So because most of the cards in this deck have either lifelink or something similar to lifelink, that trigger is kind of repeated constantly as you're playing. But I had a really bad opening hand. Okay, here we go. Gifted Aetherborn is also really good because it's 2 for a 2/3 with Death Touch and Lifelink. So I will be able to kill him next turn unless he plays a creature or nukes the board. Because these will both trigger, and that will be more than enough. Okay, and I'm going to attack with these 2. So he's going to take 4 damage from these 2 combined because I have Marauding Blight Priest. So this will probably put him down to like 3 health or something. Yeah, so that's going to trigger, so he's going to be down to 1 health. So basically he has to win on this turn or nuke the board. There's not too many nukes in black. Most nukes are either red or white. I think white has the most destroy all creatures of any format of anything in the game. Rain, get off my fucking desk. Liliana the Necromancer. I lose 2 life. It doesn't really matter. Okay, yeah, that's going to kill him. Because that's going to trigger. Arterial flow is actually pretty good. Okay, there we go. And I won. So yeah, I'd say that Vampire Eternal is kind of an aggro deck. I'd say it's an aggro deck with some removal in it. Okay. I got a couple. I think I got a pack for my masteries. We're gonna open. Packs are a lot smaller in this game than they are in real Magic. I guess that's because you get wild cards. So I got Urtai Resurrected. The last couple sets have just been pure fan service. Dominaria was literally just a bunch of cards from that reference stuff that happened in Invasion and Mercadian Masks and stuff like that. I think I have a bag of treats on my desk. I have a perch behind me at the window, and she normally sits there. But I don't know. She just wanted treats. Rain goes completely insane if I give her any treats. Fortunately, she's a pretty slim cat, so I don't really have to worry about her getting fat. She doesn't really gorge herself on her food. Once again, I highly recommend the Costco food. The Kirkland cat food is actually really good. It's like $20. It's like $30 for a bag that lasts 6 months. Unlike a lot of similarly priced or even somewhat more expensive ones, the chief ingredient I think is chicken. Then there's chicken meal. I think there's some omega acids for yeah, there's some omega fatty acids, which is good. Omega 3s. It also has, I think, probiotics in it. It has just a bunch of good stuff in it. Kind of one of the... And rice. It has rice instead of corn, which is better. The issue with a lot of kibbles is... So kibble needs to have some sort of grain in it in order to bind it into, like, the crunchy bites. Because you can't really get crunchy bites with just meat. It'll just come out like a jerky. Or some sort of... what's it called? Meat? Like wet food. So what most of them will do, will use some sort of corn, which is which is, from my understanding, really bad for cats. Corn is like the worst one. Rice is slightly less bad. But I don't know. She doesn't seem to gorge herself on it. She has a very nice sheen to her coat. So, I don't know. My kitty's doing well. Sanctum Seeker is really good. It's whenever a vampire you control attacks, each opponent loses 1 life, you gain 1 life. So that also triggers what was it, Blood Hunter? The one that whenever you gain life, they lose 1 life. Okay, I'm going to play a second Sanctum Seeker. And I should be able to win this turn. I think. Okay, so yeah, all of those trigger. And all of those boost. So he takes damage, and all of those boost Bloodthirsty Aerialist. There's really good synergy in this deck. So he's going to die from that. So. There we go. Yeah, so cats are obligate carnivores, so their diet, I think, is supposed to be like 90% meat. Dogs are omnivores, so I think their diet is supposed to be like 50 to 60% meat. The issue with most creatures that are omnivores, and this is true for a lot of lizards, is they will always prefer animal protein. So if you have like a tegu or a blue-tongued skink or something, you give them vegetables or meat, they will always eat the meat. And if you feed them meat too often, they'll just stop eating vegetables. And I think the same is true for dogs. Actually, it's interesting with blue tongue skinks. Well, that's a really good starting hand. You can just feed them dog food. If you feed them like decent quality wet dog food, you can actually just feed that to them, from my understanding, as a mono diet, because they have the same more or less nutritional needs as dogs. Also, in the wild, they mostly eat carrion, and other unpleasant stuff. So, yeah. Something I feel guilty about is when my parents got their cat, they declawed him. He's like 19 years old, so that was 20 years ago when it was still common, but I still kind of feel bad about it. It is extremely cruel. It is mutilating your animal. When I got Rain, I just literally got nail clippers, and it's very easy to just clip your cat's nails once every 2 weeks. It doesn't take very long. You have to wrangle them a bit, but it's not too bad. Oh, that's really annoying. But at least I have Phyrexian Arena. So Phyrexian Arena is really good in this deck. What it does is, the beginning of your upkeep, you draw an extra card and lose 1 life. Losing 1 life is pretty small for uh, is pretty small for drawing an extra card. Also, I have a decent amount of life gain in this deck, so I don't really have to worry about it running me down. I have 4 of these in the deck, and once again, when I can put it out, it's good. One of the most useful lessons, because I've been playing StarCraft 2 a lot recently, this is for any strategy game. More shit counters less shit. So, look, Raid, if you want to spend time with me, you can sit in my lap, but don't. Can I play Epic Downfall? Okay. There we go. I'm just going to get rid of that annoying. Exile target creature with mana value 3 or greater. So it's going to be exiled, so he can't do any shenanigans to bring it back. It doesn't look like he has a counter spell in his hand. So I am going to play... I'll play a second Phyrexian Arena. Yeah, more shit counters less shit. So, when in doubt, anything you do that lets you play more shit on the board. So, like, if you don't know what you're doing in StarCraft, if you just build as many of the semi-right types of units as possible, you're probably going to win at least some of your matches. Same thing in stuff like Age of Empires, or kind of in this game as well. Rain, get off my desk. Why do you keep coming up here? Fuck, she knocked everything over. Let's see here. I will play... I could play Sorin. I only have 5 mana, though. So I think I'll play Bloodthirsty Aerialist. And I can also play 1 Marauding Blight Priest. Okay. So once again, like I said, this deck is very synergistic. So he's going to attack, and I'm going to gain 1 life, and that's going to trigger Bloodthirsty Aerialist, and it's also going to trigger Marauding Blight Priest. Now, I don't think he's doing this, but something a lot of people will do in this, if they're losing, is they will take the maximum amount of time for each turn. The idea being to just frustrate their opponent until they quit. So, like, I think it's 20 seconds per phase. so they can delay it by a full minute each turn. And they will just keep doing that until their opponent just gets so frustrated they leave the game. It's a real scumbag move. It's a really shitty thing to do, but I guess it is what it is. What is Waterkin Shaman? Okay, it's not very good. Okay, so we have another good synergistic. So we have Veto, the Dusk Rose. Whenever you gain life, your opponent loses that much life. And then I'm also going to play a second Marauding Blight Priest. It'd be nice if I had another life gain card, but I don't at the moment. So once again, I'm going to just attack with these two. And Nighthawk Scavenger will attack him, and it'll trigger that, and that. What's this one do? I think that just phases things out. I don't think that actually kills anything. I think they come back on my next turn. Wow, my life is a lot lower than I thought it was. I need to do something about that. Hopefully I'll draw something a bit better in terms of life gain. Because Phyrexian Arena is pretty rapidly killing me. But if you look at the size... So what I can do is Veto of the Dusk Rose has creatures you control gain lifelink until end of turn. So if I do that and I just attack him with everything, keep in mind I have 5 creatures. So Veto, the Marauding Blight Priest alone will do that. Fuck. Okay. Oh, it's annoying. Okay. I can still activate this. Activate ability. And I'm going to play another Marauding Blight Priest. Okay, and those are going to trigger, and that'll kill him. There we go. Brain, there aren't any more treats up here. Okay, level up. Let's see what I get in my pack. Okay, Brothers War. Townos the Toy Maker. Great character. If you haven't read the Brothers War, it's pretty good. The Urza Saga books are good. You have Urza Saga. I forget what the second one is. Planeswalkers, the second one. Time Streams, and then Bloodlines. I'd say Brothers War and Timelines are the best ones. Well of Lost Dreams. Whenever you gain life, where X's life is less than or equal to the amount of life you gained, if you do draw X cards. Wow, that seems really good. So some of the ones in Brothers War, they're doing reprints. So ones that have the full gear on them are, I think, only legal in some formats. Let me just see what's available. So a new system they recently put in is if you buy 10 packs, you get a special pack, which has a group of different rares in it. So a selection of rares from different sets. I think it's like 4 rares and 1 mythic rare. Okay, let's see what I got. Bonesaw. That is terrible. That's terrible. Let's see, what's my rare? Blast Zone. Put X charges on. Destroy each non-land permanent with mana value equal to the number of charge counters on Black Zone. Okay. No. I don't really play things competitively. Unless this counts of, Oh, thanks, Noah. I appreciate that. God bless. It's been hard to find a place in Winnipeg that has confession. I was able to go to that in adoration on Wednesday, so I feel better about that. I feel a lot better about myself and life in general. It tends to have that impact on you. I don't know, there's like no better feeling in the world than when you get out of confession. I was initially really scared of it. I think probably a lot of people are scared of it. Most priests, though, are really nice. Maybe if you go to like a super trad parish, but even when I went to a trad parish, the priest was nice. I think in general, the priest feels if you care enough to bother going to confession, and you feel either legitimately guilty or you feel um, you're afraid of hell, then you're probably in the right state. I only think maybe someone in the chat knows this, like 5 or 10% of people ever actually go to confession on a semi-regular basis. So if you actually go, you're kind of already uh, better in terms of your piety than most people. But yeah, the priests, I think also they don't want to be too rough on people because then they'll be scared to come back. So generally speaking, whenever I go to a priest will normally be like, okay, and then they'll give you a little bit of advice. What was the worst game ever made? I don't remember which one that was. What I called the worst game ever made. Um, I'm tempted to concede because I'm mana screwed, but let's not be a bitch and let's just fight on. I just need one more mana, more or less, and then I can probably win. There we go. One more mana. I can play Phyrexian Arena now, and that'll let me draw more cards. So I'm just going to attack. I think I have to try to be aggressive. That's really my only hope of winning this one. Ooh, crap. It's too bad. This was actually reasonably close, but I'm not going to be able to kill him before I... Yeah, I'm going to lose. Oh, yeah, DSP said... Okay, so DSP did a video where he said that Homefront was the worst game ever made. And I actually didn't think it was that bad, to be honest, but he did this like clickbait video where he called it the worst game he'd ever played. So I'm not sure if this is enough to... Oh wait, no, Phyrexian Arena might kill me. That would be ironic because I can win on my next turn. Okay. Fuck. It was close. I just needed one more turn. Like Homefront, the Revolution was like mediocre. It was not by any means like that bad. It was just kind of a like very standard clone of an Ubisoft game. Noah, were you confirmed? So I think if you weren't confirmed, you have to go through RCIA, which I had to do, although my RCIA was pretty horrible because the church where I used to live was extremely liberal. So they like told us that female priests would be a thing in the next couple of years and stuff like that. There's a lot of really bad churches. It depends where you live. So the worst church in the world by far is Germany. A friend of mine who lives in Germany said they sing Imagine at masses. So I think that says something. At Yeah, they sing Imagine at masses in Germany. I think the Low Countries are the second worst, and Canada is the third worst. Although when I was in Britain, they were really bad. But I've walked out a lot of masses in my time. Um, I walked out of one where the priest said that ISIS, we can't criticize ISIS because our church is as bad as ISIS because of the Crusades. Um, there's one where the priest prayed for Donald Trump to die. Um, what else was there? There was one where the priest said we have a moral duty to oppose right wing nationalism. There is another one where they told us that Jews are the spiritual master race, and Jews are better Catholics than Catholics are. Was another one. So these were just all the kind of things that I had to deal with. And I remember when I was confirmed, they had liturgical dance, which is as G slur as it sounds. I don't even really want to say what like liturgical dance is because it's bad. Okay, another Phyrexian Arena. I'm gonna play Sanctum Seeker. And once again, this triggers that deals a damage, and then that also boosts Bloodthirsty Aerialist. And then next, I think I'll play. Uh, Actually, I think I have enough to play both of them. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, each opponent loses one life. Okay. So, read the environment. I don't know if you'd say I have a left wing position on the environment. Um, but I tend to be sympathetic to any kind of pollution reduction or endangered species preservation or. I do think that God did make us stewards of the earth. I know that's kind of a cringy liberal position, or a cringy I don't know if that's a liberation, but I do think God made us stewards of the earth, and it's our duty to to take proper care of the environment. So I do think that's it. Also, if you're going to be a nationalist or a conservative, if you're going to talk about blood and soil, you have to care for the soil. And a lot of aspects of the natural world are an integral part of the nation. Like, what would Canada be without the Rocky Mountains, being able to go there to ski, or the rainforest in British Columbia, or the Great Plains, or stuff like that? Um, so I I think global warming is real, but it's more of a how'd you put it? Um, it's somewhat of a pragmatic thing. I think regardless of whether or not carbon emissions are destroying the environment, I mean, are causing the planet's temperature to rise. They're bad for all kinds of other reasons: asthma, acid rain, acidification of the oceans, desertification. There's a lot of other reasons that carbon emissions and fossil fuel usage is really bad for the environment. So I don't even really think you need to go as far as carbon to say that you need that. I just think it's something that we should. I also think in our society we do use too many resources. And I'm not like one of those back to nature people, but I think a lot of the stuff we do is just wasteful. Like if you look at the amount of shit that grocery stores throw out or that restaurants throw out, I do think there's a lot of low hanging fruit when it comes to uh, environmental stuff we can do to make the planet better. Also, once again, endangered species or something I think you really need to protect because they're like an integral part, like I said, of the nation. What else is there? This is a tricky one. I'm just going to shoot Righteous Valkyrie because I don't want that thing getting bigger. So my issue with environment... Okay, so re-carbon tax. So what they did in British Columbia, actually, I think is the right way to go about it. So, um, so, so in British Columbia, what they wound up doing is they instituted a carbon tax, but they cut corporate and personal income taxes by the same amount. So whatever amount of money that they wind up making from the carbon tax goes back into stuff for businesses. So British Columbia now has the lowest corporate tax rate in the country. I think it does at least. And it has one of the lower income tax rates. So the idea is it's not increasing necessarily the total net tax burden, but it's incentivizing a reduction in carbon usage. Um, I work at a grocery store for 4+ years, and I can confirm people will not purchase anything with even minor damage. Probably 20% of produce is thrown out. I'd be surprised if it isn't more than 20%. I mean, I don't even really think that's like an environment. It's just a basic like um, waste. I think that's the idea of wasting things is, I think, fundamentally kind of anti-Christian, to be honest. I'll play a veto, and I will attack. Okay, so getting the environmentalist movement is largely dominated by F slurs, which is a word I can't say on YouTube. But it's my issue with them is none of them actually care about the environment. Like they don't talk about toxic waste or like they don't even really talk about stuff like genetically modified food anymore or how bad seed companies are and how immoral those people like the shit that Monsanto does. They don't talk about trying to make things safer. Like I find a lot of them just hate public transit. At least that's what I find in Canada. They don't like public transit because public transit doesn't punish people for driving enough. Uh, and so like if you so people in an urban area, subways by and large work pretty quick. It's faster than driving, it's faster than walking, it's convenient, it's very energy efficient. It requires less maintenance because it's underground. It basically just works really well. But the left generally doesn't want to buy it because it doesn't punish drivers. And I think in a lot of cases they would rather it sorry, I lost my train of thought there. They would rather not reduce carbon emissions if it makes if it fucks with drivers because they just hate them. But like, also leftists are against nuclear power. I think that's another one that's just a very like hand tipping. Nuclear power doesn't produce carbon emissions. It's clean, safe, and cheap. I get that there was Fukushima, but did anyone even really die from Fukushima? And even if nuclear power occasionally has issues, um, So when I talk about GMO, maybe I'll just be more specific. Um, for my course, I did a paper on Monsanto. So the problem with GMO is stuff like suicide seeds, where the seeds don't can't be used more than once. So they're stuck in like a form of sharecropping where they have to buy new seeds every year. Also, if some of the seeds gets mixed in with the other seeds, what they will do is they will take the perspective that the entire farmer's crop belongs to them, and if they use it, it's copyright infringement. So they will just use that to confiscate basically the entire crop of some farmers, which I just think is very evil. So that's kind of what I mean more so with GMO than necessarily making things healthier. But like so they don't like that. They don't like hydropower. I understand that hydropower does environmental damage, but it doesn't produce emissions. Like there's some countries in the world that get virtually all of their electricity from hydropower. Another thing is there's ways to upgrade nuclear power plants to make them safer and more efficient. You also have stuff like thorium power and molten salt reactors. I believe that there is a peak uranium and that will run out of it at some point, but there's so much fuel for thorium that I think it's several hundred years worth. But yeah, nuclear power doesn't produce carbon emissions. We have to come up with a better way of storing it. But I kind of feel like a lot of these issues we just haven't solved because environmentalists don't want to make things more environmentally friendly. They want to bitch and be F slurs about it and extort money. Like like nuclear power I think is good. I think what else? What other types of power is there? Hydropower is good. Um I see the thing what I actually think would be good is no, Monsanto are fucking awful. Um they're just complete shitbags. I don't like them. They're a monopoly company. So what winds up happening is in the US at least is the US government will provide a lot of subsidies to farmers. So the higher that the farmers um will they'll make the seeds just out of their price reach, so the US government will increase the subsidies the farmers get. Um and then they'll raise the prices again and then increase subsidies. Or even better, the government will give them agricultural loans. So it becomes some form of like debt slavery. It's kind of like the new sharecropping. I just think that stuff is really gross. I think it's really shitty, to be honest. Uh, oh, big pharma are also shit. Now, keep in mind when I say this stuff, I don't have an issue with like fertilizer, pesticide, well, so long as it's used responsibly, or a lot of these things. My issue is more that these companies are run by shitbags, who tend to be like horrible people. Uh, that's kind of more my issue. And they just behave in what I think is a very immoral way. Crap. Now, I don't know if this is a meme or not, but someone was talking about South African style land reform, where they were just going to start confiscating white people's land and giving it to black farmers. The only black farmer that I know of who's notable is was Uncle Ben, and ironically enough, Uncle Ben was canceled. It's funny because like the two I think most well known black commercial figures was Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben. And I don't think anyone was really, I don't know if any black people were really offended by it. Like you have this grandmotherly looking like nice black lady who's smiling at you and giving you pancakes in the morning, and that's apparently like racist or something. And then Uncle Ben is just some like old farmer guy who's good at like growing rice. I don't really get how that's like offensive, but apparently like that is, and that's just kind of the way things are these days. Just we're ruled by non-serious people. Then again, very few of these things actually um very few of these things actually are really black people care about them. I'm not doing like the base black man thing, but like I don't think black people, the only black people who are offended by a lot of these things are like grifters who use this as a way to get money from like the ACLU or to get money from George Soros or some of these other groups. And they do it as like a victim narrative, but like does the average black person really care about um Aunt Jemima? Like if you go up to the average black person on the street and be like, would you be offended? Like it's just, and I don't mean to be kind of like the generic conservative talking points, but it is pretty retarded, to be honest. I remember people reported DSP because he was playing what was it called again? Ghost of Tsushima, and the Mongols were stealing some. The Mongols were stealing rice from the local peasantry. So like DSP's joke was, give me the rice that tastes real nice, but not I can't do a Japanese accent, but not Uncle Ben's. That is racist. We are woke now, Kima. Like, so that was the like the joke was that the Mongols were taking rice from the Japanese, but they couldn't take Uncle Ben's rice because I don't know. I didn't really explain that very well. But basically, he just made a joke about that, and then people reported him for it to be like they just said it was racist of him to make a joke about Uncle Ben's rice. So sorry, I completely fucked that explanation up, but I don't know. It was like one of the few funny jokes that DSP's told in years, and no, Tsushima was occupied, I believe. The That's the island between Japan and Korea. I believe that was occupied for a decent amount of time. I could be wrong though. And so the complaint about Ghost of Tsushima was that it was racist against Japanese people because it was white people telling Japanese stories, and the Japanese didn't care and they liked the game. So the narrative turned to be that the game was this evil reactionary thing that depicted the samurai as being like champions of the people and promoted Japanese nationalism. So that's like what it turned into, was the narrative. But the Japanese people themselves, from my understanding, liked it, um, and none of them cared. It's like the Japanese do stuff based on Western stuff all the time, and it's normally awesome. Like the Castlevania games make the Catholic Church look really cool. The what else was there? Uh, Dark Souls has a lot of like Greek and medieval stuff thrown in. They do stuff like that all the time. The Japanese, I call it neoclassical music, which is like a lot of soundtrack music that has a lot of inspiration from classical. Classical music's really big in Japan. I don't think anyone in the West is offended by any of that. It's kind of funny because, like, Castlevania was very respectful of the Catholic Church when it was a video game series. But then it became when Netflix adapted it, they just made it like the most fucking degenerate. I think everyone in it is like bisexual, and Dracula's this man of science. And it's like I remember one part where they burn someone as a witch because they have medicinal herbs. They're using medicinal herbs to help someone, and I'm like, didn't most monasteries have a herb garden, or I think it's called the physic garden? That had like healing herbs in it? And is it like, because I remember the three main doctorates you could get at university were theology, law, and medicine. So I don't really get how. I don't know. The other thing you have to keep in mind, and this is what I say whenever people bring up the witch trials, is plebs are going to pleb. Like, regardless of what the official teaching is or the high culture or whatever the science society, you're always going to have people, be they like urban poor or poor rural people, who just engage in really plebeian behavior. So, like, if we want to talk about burning people as witches, that happens in every culture. Like, if you look at China, I'm pretty sure they did that. The Aztecs burned people for witchcraft. The Zulus had, like, they killed, like, 10,000 people because they thought they were witches. I think the Romans killed witches. The idea that there's, like, sorcerers that can sort with evil spirits and, like, damage the community is something that exists in more or less every culture and every time period. It's hardly unique to Christianity. It's just something that plebs do, that like superstitious people do. So I'm sure Muslims killed witches all the time, but the witch trials. Like, sometimes you'll just have a lot of poorly educated people who are superstitious and believe stuff like that. So, a funny thing that happened in the lead up to the 30 Years' War. Oh, well, no, sorry, yes. Witchcraft was. Well, sorry, because superstition is very common in, like, peasant areas and stuff like that, and with, like, less educated people. Like, in Mexico, you have, what's her name? Santa Muerta? The saint that looks like death, which is like a female version of death that's worshipped by, like, transsexuals and prostitutes. Like, that kind of weird shit, that syncretism just will periodically show up. And even though, like, the Catholic Church condemns it and says it's heretical and says that it's like wrong and you can't worship Santa Muerta or whatever, I mean, plebs will just still do it. So many peasants did do occult rituals to help their crops or whatnot. Also, there were cults during the time as well. They did fucked up things. Yeah, I mean, there's always degenerates among the elite. It's hardly kind of unique. I mean, at least with Christianity, a lot of this stuff was considered unsavory and stuff that was kind of embarrassing and stuff that you shouldn't be doing in public. So a lot of this stuff kind of moved underground and it wasn't being openly promoted by the elites. There was also this like narrative in modern stuff that people during the medieval period or people during like the Renaissance or whatever didn't believe in God. They didn't believe in Catholic doctrine. Um, and they were just all secret atheists, I find is what the narrative tends to be, which there's, as far as I can tell, there's no evidence for any of that. It's just kind of complete bullshit. But yeah, I mean, especially if the other thing to keep in mind is like people are not like we're not stupid in the pre-modern era. Like if you think about it, the theory of miasma is not that different than modern germ theory. There's still the idea that if that being in proximity to like a dead body or like sick people will spread miasma or something. I mean, that's not dissimilar to germ theory. Um, the like, there's this idea that people somehow didn't understand that uh, plagues were contagious or that illness was contagious and it could be like given to other people and stuff like that. I mean, obviously they did. They weren't retarded. Um, they like they could figure out, hey, if we go near people with the plague, we're gonna wind up getting the plague too. The other thing that like people don't get is, from my understanding, this whole idea that people tossed like their waste out on the streets is insane. Is like was not what happened. I think in London, I forget if it was the death penalty if you were caught doing it, but there was very severe punishments for anyone who like would throw out their waste onto the street. Most of it was collected and put into cesspits, which had to be periodically emptied. Now the cesspits, interestingly enough, the job actually paid really well because it was really unpleasant and it was kind of a low status thing to do. But I think people understood that if you throw shit and piss everywhere, it smells bad and it's going to cause illness. Once again, you don't necessarily have to um, understand the intricacies of germ theory to be able to kind of to figure this shit out. It's pretty obvious. Um, fuck. I'm not sure what to hit. I guess I'll shoot that maybe. What's your opinion on Jesus not washing his hands before eating? I don't really know enough about that. I will say this. The fact that, so the crime that I think they theoretically put Jesus to death for was working on the Sabbath, specifically doing miracles on the Sabbath. So they're like, doing miracles on the Sabbath is a violation of God's law, which I just find hilarious. It's like the most, I can't say, it's the most Shlomo thing I've ever heard of, to be honest. You can't. I think in the Talmud, I might have to get that part and read it. There's like a part where they out argue God using like legalistic arguments, and God winds up changing his mind about something because they bully him so much. So we're gonna try doing my sliver deck now. We'll do a couple of games of that, and then we'll probably finish up because my throat's starting to get sore. I just can't do streams that long. I just find my throat gets sore after a while. I mean, if we're gonna talk about like the whole Knights Templar thing, it's just because the king was a greedy fuck who wanted their money. I don't think that's really anybody really. That's really a question. Sorry if I'm snorting a bit. I apologize. I'm kind of stuffed up at the moment. Like I said, I don't know if it's just a bad long term cold or like what the deal is, but I've just been feeling like shit for the last week. I kind of feel like I need to maybe for this deck take some of the dual lands out, just because I feel like I have too many and I'm not really able to play things in a timely manner. I mean, I should be good now because I have a enough. I'll have enough lands to start going through. Also, I guess I'm just unlucky because I didn't draw any of the cheaper slivers. So, how slivers work, for those of you who haven't played them before, so every sliver has an ability that says all slivers get X. So, this one is all slivers you control have haste. This one is all slivers you control have double strike. This is all slivers get +2 +0. And what can happen is very quickly, the slivers will just kind of become this unstoppable force that'll just kind of blow through everything in their path. Forget, does that have... And some of the abilities will be really, really good. Like, one of them I remember has slivers you control get... what was it called again? Funny how the cold is so common now compared to the last 3 years. I mean, it makes sense to me. I don't think it's a conspiracy or anything. Um, I think what probably happened was people weren't getting a cold because everyone was not leaving their houses and interacting with each other, and they were wearing masks and washing their hands and using stuff. I don't really like the excessive stuff like that. I mean, obviously, you should wash your hands when you're handling meat or use the bathroom or doing stuff like that. But I kind of feel that excessive hand cleaning with sanitizer and mask wearing hurts your immune system. I don't know if that's an old wives' tale or something like that, but that just tends to be how I I don't know if I ever explicitly told people to take the vaccine. What I said was, I don't think there's anything immoral about taking the vaccine, which is a position that's held by the Pope, EWTN, the SSPX. I said that I don't think it's the hill to die on. That's all I really said. I think if you have a family and you need it for your job, I didn't really see what the issue with taking it was. And that's more or less all I said on the topic. So, I mean, you can take that however you want, but that was just my opinion. Nor do I think I ever I don't think I ever said I wasn't going to take it. I said if I require I think it's been pretty clear from the beginning. If it's required in order to work, I was always going to get it for my job. So I don't know what people expected. So in your world, all forms of illness are caused by the COVID vaccine, like every single one. That sounds plausible. Um, that no one, everyone, I guess, I don't know. It's just kind of retarded to me, but whatever. I mean, if I don't think I ever said that I supported forcing people to take it if they didn't want it. I think I've been pretty consistent about that. All I said was I don't think it's immoral to take it because groups ranging from traditional to liberal Catholics were pretty much in agreement that it was not immoral from a production perspective, and that if you needed to take it for your job, like, okay, so what I mean by the hill to die on is if you're a doctor and they try to force you to perform an abortion, then yeah, that's probably a hill to die on or something like that. But I don't think against something that's not inherently a mortal sin that's necessarily. That might just be a Canadian versus American perspective. Um, so I mean, if you can show me where it says in church doctrine, I hate to appeal to authority that it's immoral to not take it. I mean, okay, so here's the thing, and this is just kind of my position, and this is something I never really get about these circles, is a lot of people will identify as authoritarians or fascists or something, but they'll also play the but my freedom card. Um, did I say I don't recall saying that? If I said that, I apologize. That wasn't my opinion. Maybe I misspoke. How am I being arbitrary? I don't understand how slaughtering the unborn and taking a vaccine are the moral equivalent. it's if that's your perspective, I mean, I don't know how to really respond to that. Um, so I view one as being innately wrong, and I view the other as not being innately wrong. So once again, both kill people. So I guess the argument is indirectly killing people is the same as directly killing people. At the same time, every single policy that any government or any organization uh, does will result in some people's dying. Um, there will always be something weird that happens that is devastating to someone or another. Um, and I guess it's just that's just kind of the reality. And this is part of why I don't like democracies, because I don't think the average person should really be in that state. But it's like if you get police to kill drug dealers or something, um, is that moral or is that bad? Some of the police are probably going to die, but is it worth it to kill drug dealers? I mean, there's just a lot of cases in life where that might be the thing. How am I spiritually Jewish? I'd like an explanation of that, please. It honestly just might be a cultural thing. Um, I'm Canadian, so I don't understand a lot of things Americans do. To be perfectly honest, it's just I just inherently don't have the same perspective on a lot of things. Um, Maybe that sounds like a cop out, but that's just kind of the reality of the situation. So my position on freedom, and this is pretty, I think I've been fairly consistent about this, is you have the freedom to do things that are good or things that are morally neutral. You don't have the freedom to do things that are immoral. That's more or less my opinion on the topic. And I think that allows for a lot of wiggle room in life. I think a lot of media stuff, like a lot of movies, a lot of video games, are in the category I'd put as morally neutral. I just think, for instance, you shouldn't be allowed to tell kids that they're a different gender or teach them how to do hormone replacement therapy or stuff like that. That's my opinion on it. But yeah. Anyways, I think I'm going to end it there.